So what if?
Yeah.
What if the very thing that gives you clarity, that insight that sets you apart, what if that's the exact thing that makes you a target?
Hmm. That's a powerful thought to start with.
It's this huge paradox in leadership, isn't it? The pioneers, the ones who see things first, they rarely start out as heroes.
No, they often start out looking like, well, maybe troublemakers.
Yeah.
Just difficult.
Exactly. Isolated outliers.
Yeah.
And they often pay just a devastating price for simply seeing what others don't yet see. So today we're doing a deep dive into that. We're looking at the patterns, trying to understand why revolutionary clarity gets such fierce opposition.
Right.
Our mission really is to unpack this cycle of resistance, figure out the true cost of conviction, and maybe most importantly, offer some clear tests. Tests help you figure out if you're standing on courage or maybe just, well, pride. Let's get into this.
Yeah, this tension, vision versus opposition, it's absolutely foundational. It's not just ancient history stuff. You see it everywhere today, don't you? Boardrooms, startups, social movements. And when you choose that conviction, when you step away from the comfort of consensus, you need incredible resilience. It's not just being smart, it's emotional strength, spiritual fortitude even, to stand firm without getting bitter or just digging your heels in.
Okay, so let's start with defining it. What actually is this special kind of sight? The research calls it differentiated sight.
Yes, and that's a good term because it's much more than just, a unique opinion or a different take. It's described as a profound way of perceiving reality. Sometimes it feels like discernment or maybe high-level strategic intuition.
Seeing what could be.
Exactly, seeing what could be the potential, the trajectory, instead of just being stuck on what is the immediate facts that seem limiting. It's definitely a burden sometimes, but also a powerful blessing, because once you see it, well, you can't really unsee it, can you?
So why the hostility then? If it's such a gift, why does it provoke such an immediate negative reaction?
Well, because that differentiated sight immediately runs up against what we could call the status quo lens. And that's the default setting for, let's be honest, most people, most organizations.
Yeah.
And this lens, it has several core features that pretty much guarantee opposition. The research highlights things like fear, obviously, fear of change, fear of loss, fear of the unknown cost.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then there's familiarity, this is how we've always done it trap. It's easy.
Comfortable.
Right, comfort, prioritizing ease over the hard work of change. Then there's the scarcity mindset, this feeling that there isn't enough time or resources or capacity.
Limits everywhere.
Exactly. And finally, groupthink. Just the sheer weight of peer pressure, the consensus of the majority. It's hard to stand against that.
So it's like one way of seeing is based on limited, maybe fear-based data, and the other sees the underlying potential, the strategic opening. We see this in history, don't we? And in biblical stories, too. Like Moses, he didn't just glance at a weird bush. He actually stopped, turned aside to really see this burning bush that wasn't burning up. That took presence of mind.
Or David, looking at Goliath. Everyone else saw an impossible giant, a statistical nightmare.
Yeah.
David saw, well, an affront to God's honor, an opportunity to defend something sacred, a completely different framing.
And the most powerful kind, maybe, is seeing the potential in people.
Oh, absolutely. That redemptive vision. You mentioned Jesus. He didn't just see the label society stuck on people, right?
Yeah.
Sinner, tax collector, fisherman. He saw the potential inside. Future apostles, leaders, people capable of transformation. That ability to see people not just as they are, but as they could be, that's core to this differentiated sight.
Okay, so if we need a prime example, like the ultimate case study of this whole dynamic, the vision, the resistance, the cost we have, to look at Joshua and Caleb, right? Numbers 13 and 14.
Absolutely. It's the classic leadership test case, isn't it? The moment where conviction runs headlong into the fearful majority. The setup is perfect. Moses sends 12 spies, 12 leaders into Canaan, the promised land. They go, they scout it out.
And they come back with proof.
Yeah.
Those famous grapes, so big it took 2 guys to carry the cluster.
Yeah.
The land was undeniably rich. The opportunity was real. The data was there.
The data was there, but then the split, the huge divide in interpreting that data. You get the majority report from 10 spies. We could call it the grasshopper report.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, the land is great, but, and that but changed everything. They focused entirely on the obstacles.
The giant.
The powerful people, the fortified cities, those intimidating descendants of Anak the Nephilim, the giants, and their conclusion. It was devastatingly emotional. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. They basically projected their own fear and smallness onto the situation.
And that fear just spread like wildfire, didn't it? Instant panic in the camp.
Exactly. Then you get the minority report. Joshua and Caleb, they saw the exact same facts. Same cities, same giants, but they filtered those facts through a completely different lens, a lens of faith, of conviction in the mission and in God's promise.
What did they say again? It was something like,
Their declarations were bold. First, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. Total confidence. And then, crucially, they reframed the threat. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them.
wow. So they didn't deny the giants existed?
No, not at all. They
Yeah.
just denied the giant's power to stop the mission. Huge difference.
And the reaction from the crowd to this message of courage and faith, it was immediate, wasn't it? And raw. The text says, but the whole assembly talked about stoning them.
Chilling. Just chilling.
They wanted to kill the messengers bringing the possibility report,
Hmm.
because that possibility felt more terrifying than the familiar misery they knew. They literally preferred going back to slavery in Egypt.
It really highlights how violent the opposition to vision can be. It's often driven by deep psychological panic, not logic. But here's the challenge, maybe, that comes out of this story. Okay, they weren't stoned immediately. Divine intervention stopped that.
Right.
But they still had to wait 40 years, wandering in the wilderness with the very same people who rejected their vision and wanted them dead.
Yeah.
Doesn't that suggest that sometimes, maybe often, the status quo lens wins the immediate battle, even if it loses the long-term war? How do leaders today endure that kind of prolonged cost, that delay?
That's the agony of it, isn't it? The long-term cost. 40 years they had to wait, lead, and basically outlive the entire generation that refused to believe. That waiting, that faithful endurance through the delay, that's the hidden grinding cost of seeing clearly sometimes. You see the destination, but you're stuck in the wilderness for what feels like forever.
And you know, that pattern from Kadesh Barnea, the vision, the resistance, the cost, that wilderness period, and then eventual vindication, that pattern really does define transformative leadership across history. It repeats.
Okay, let's trace that pattern. Look at Martin Luther, 16th century. What were his giants?
Oh, monumental giants. The absolute unquestioned power of the 16th century church, politically, economically, culturally, especially its practice of selling indulgences, basically selling forgiveness. It was a massive revenue stream.
And Luther's vision, his differentiated sight.
It wasn't some radical new thing, really. It was a return to something fundamental, solidified, salvation by faith alone. But that simple theological point was dynamite. It essentially said the church's whole economic and political power structure tied to controlling access to forgiveness was, well, illegitimate, corrupt even.
He was challenging the financial model of the global superpower of his day.
Pretty much. So the resistance was, predictably, immense. He gets summoned to the Diet of Worms in 1521, this high-stakes imperial council.
Like a trial.
Exactly. Political, religious, everything he's told. Recant. Take it all back, or face the consequences, likely death, certainly being declared an outlaw, an enemy of the state and the church.
And he's facing the emperor, the princes, the church authorities, the full weight of the status quo.
And his conviction leads him to that famous stand. Here I stand, I can do no other, God help me. He chose the truth, as he saw it, over his own safety and future.
The cost was immediate, declared an outlaw, forced into hiding. But his stand ignited the Reformation.
A classic example of the pattern. Now, think about William Wilberforce. Different context, different giants.
His giants were the British slave trade, right?
Right.
Hugely profitable, deeply entrenched.
Monstrously profitable, protected by law, by powerful families, by tradition, by economic arguments. It seemed immovable, a colossal giant. And Wilberforce had this singular vision. Abolish it.
And his wilderness lasted how long?
Decades. His career was essentially defined by a 40-year political wilderness, over 20 years of relentless defeats in Parliament.
Wow.
He faced constant slander, ridicule, people questioning his motives, his sanity, intense pressure, deep bouts of depression even. He was wandering in that political desert, carrying this vision that must have felt impossible so many times.
And the timing of the final victory is just poignant, isn't it?
Incredibly poignant. The research confirms the bill for final emancipation passed just 3 days before he died in 1833. He literally spent his entire political life fighting for it, enduring that delay right to the very end.
So Luther, Wilberforce, Joshua, Caleb, they all refused to let the resistance, the giants, define reality for them. They chose conviction over comfort, didn't they?
They did. They demonstrated that real leaders often see the truth ahead of the curve, and they're willing to pay the price for that insight. But, and this is crucial for anyone listening who feels they have that kind of vision, this raises a really critical internal question, a checkpoint.
Which is,
How do you know? How do you know if your stand, your controversial position, is actually true courage and righteous vision, or if it's just, well, stubbornness, maybe even arrogance?
oof, yeah, that line could feel terrifyingly thin sometimes.
It really can. It's maybe the most dangerous self-assessment a leader has to make. Getting it wrong is disastrous.
So how do we distinguish? What does the research suggest separates ego-driven stubbornness from mission-driven courage?
Okay, let's break it down. The core difference seems to lie in the root motivation. Stubbornness, it's rooted in ego. The driving force is I must be right. The biggest fear is actually being wrong, looking foolish, losing face. It prioritizes the self-image over the actual outcome of the mission.
And how does it react to pushback?
Its primary emotional response tends to be indignation, offense. How dare they question me or my idea? It gets personal, fast.
Okay, so that's stubbornness. What about courage?
Courage, on the other hand, is rooted in conviction about the mission. The driving force is this must be true or this must be done. The biggest fear isn't being personally wrong, it's the mission failing. It's about the outcome, the principle.
So steadfast on the what, but maybe flexible in the how.
Exactly. Courage is typically steadfast on the core principle, the what, but remains flexible or at least open on the method, the how we get there. It can take advice on strategy.
And its reaction to resistance.
It's different. Less personal offense. More often, it's grief, sadness that the mission is being delayed or misunderstood, or urgency, okay, this obstacle is real, how do we overcome it? It's focused externally on the mission, not internally on the ego.
This really highlights the need for humility, doesn't it? True courage seems intertwined with humility.
Absolutely. There's that wisdom saying, right? God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. If your vision feels divinely inspired or just deeply right, pride is the surest way to undermine it. Humility attracts the resources, the support, the grace you need.
So we need a practical way to check ourselves. A self-test. You mentioned an open-handed test.
Yeah, it's a way to gauge your posture. Are you holding onto this vision with the clenched fist of ego or an open hand of service? Ask yourself 3 honest questions. First, are you willing for the vision to succeed without you?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. If your ego needs you to be the central hero, the indispensable architect, that's a red flag for pride. True conviction wants the mission to succeed, period.
Okay, second question.
Second, are you willing for the method to change based on wise counsel? If you treat any critique of your strategy, your how, as a personal attack or a betrayal of the core vision, the what, you're probably being stubborn, not courageous. Conviction holds the principle, but good tactics evolve.
Makes sense.
And the third, how does criticism actually land with you? When you receive thoughtful, even sharp criticism or counsel, what's your gut reaction? Is it immediate offense, defensiveness, anger that points towards ego? Or does it trigger grief? A sadness that the mission is hitting roadblocks or being misunderstood. That posture, that grief or urgency often signals true, humble courage.
It's a really helpful framework. And it connects back to the ultimate leadership model, doesn't it?
It does. You look at Jesus, arguably the ultimate visionary with the most differentiated sight ever, and how did he carry it? The descriptions are gentle and lowly in heart. His profound insight was expressed through humility, through service, through lowliness. That seems to be the required posture for stewarding a truly significant, maybe even holy, vision. You lead it with humility.
Otherwise, what happens? The vision becomes an idol.
Exactly. It becomes something you protect with your pride rather than a mission you serve with humility. Big difference.
Wow. Okay, so bringing this all together,
Yeah.
this deep dive really shows that the cost of seeing differently, of having that conviction, is high. No doubt about it. It can cost you reputation, comfort, relationships, control. But, and this is a crucial takeaway maybe, the cost of not seeing clearly, of sticking with the status quo lens out of fear, is ultimately much higher, isn't it?
Exponentially higher, I'd argue.
Right.
It leads to directionless leadership, organizational drift, stagnation, and eventually total mission failure. Comfort is expensive in the long run.
So courage isn't about avoiding opposition. That's impossible if the vision is significant.
Right. Courage is the ability to anticipate it, prepare for it, endure that wilderness period, and even learn how to transform that resistance into momentum eventually.
Don't mistake the pushback as proofs the vision is wrong.
Never. The giants are real, the resistance is real, but they only define the outcome if you let them, if you adopt their grasshopper view of yourself in the mission. So the encouragement is to cultivate that courage, but make sure it's grounded in genuine conviction, deep humility, and resilient faith.
Okay, so we always like to end with a final thought for you, the listener. to reflect on, something to chew on, based on everything we've discussed. If your leadership legacy, your story, were written today, what would it say? Would it read comfort to the crowd? Or would it read courage in the face of giants? Think about what you see clearly and what price you're truly willing to pay for that sight.